No. Wala. Okay. Wala. Magandang umaga po. Good morning. Magandang umaga again sa lahat nating mga kababayan. Maayong aga, maayong buntag. This is your host, Jing Paras of our program, Koffee Klatch, broadcasting live on channel Sovereign PH 911 every Saturday at 10 a.m. Coffee Klatch brings to you fresh news, issues of the day. And these issues are brought to you hot and steaming. I have with me today my partner, Z Saldua. My other partner is not around. He's indisposed today, Mr. Paglinawan. So let's welcome our guest. But before that, before he's introduced, I'd like to ask Zay to greet everyone.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Mixing the brew of your favorite and latest issues to help improve the lives of Filipinos, but bringing them to the latest, delivering to you nothing but the truth. And we have always, every week, some of the best people to interview because they are directly in charge or they are directly influencing the Filipinos by being a part of the public service. So please join us this Saturday or every Saturday for a coffee talk and exchange and share views with us. So just send in your comments and reactions in our social media platforms below.
Well, we are very lucky today that we have our guest, one of the very, very energetic and very hardworking official of government. And he is in charge of taking care of our foreign workers, our OFWs, who have always been considered as our mga bayani. No, we have the very great guy from the Overseas Welfare Administration (OWA), and a very multi-awarded person, very talented, a lawyer, a professor, and has been doing a lot of good things for our Filipino people. And none other than uh, Administrator Hans Kakdak of the OWA. Good morning, Hans.
Good morning, Sir Jing and Miss Z, and to your viewers. Good morning din po sa inyong lahat.
Z, you want to say something, Z?
Yes, good morning to you, Sir Hans. Definitely a big responsibility on your shoulders because we have more than 2 million Filipinos all over the world, and definitely they are our modern day heroes. And I'm sure that your job is even more difficult now during the pandemic.
Well, yeah. Totoo po yan, ha? Admin Hans, well, he's all over. It's all over. And considering that there are so many workers now coming home, and we have to house them, we have to bring them to the hotels with all the PCR tests. As a matter of fact, a lot of our viewers had been asking questions. First, Admin Hans, one of the very often asked question is, how is our repatriation going on today? Considering that a lot of our workers in Middle East, in the Asian countries, had been out of work, so it really puts into your lap all these concerns and problems. Can you share with us the things that are going on now with our repatriation po?
Yes, of course, through the joint interagency effort mandated by no less than the president, no, to do everything in our authority to make sure that the return of our dear OFWs is smooth and safe, their transition to our home country as comfortable as possible. Today, at the beginning of today, we have transported 585,000 OFWs since May 2020, when the president made the very, very clear and strong directive to send all OFWs to their home regions. 585,000 na po since May 2020 and still counting. Every
Yeah.
day, we have OWA chartered buses out of PITX for the Luzon OFWs going home and OWA chartered flights at the NAIA 2 for the Visayas and Mindanao OFWs. And of course, I have to say, Sir Jing, Ms. Z, that this is an interagency partnership. So nandyan po ang DFA, DOTR, the Coast Guard, the CAAC, the LTRFB, the DILG, the DOH, Bureau of Quarantine, and the PNP, DND, and AFP on hand po. Joint effort po ito. OWA is just part of a team under the IATF, NTF, in the Sec Charlie Galvez banner.
That's very good po, and we congratulate you for your very good effort in this regard. And I've spoken to a lot of OFWs. They are satisfied very much with how OWA is handling this. The Coast Guard, the OCD, and so many others. The Metro Manila Development Authority. You know, and mostly the people involved in providing PCR testing to all of these OFWs. Uh, if I may ask, admin, uh, will this not affect the repatriation of so many workers, considering that our economy is also affected generally by the pandemic? But will this not really affect also put hard effect on our economy, our remittances, yearly remittances, which the country has been dependent to maintain our GDP? Ano pong impact po nito so far?
Yes, miraculously, our remittances have been, I should say, largely unaffected. Of course, there was
Oh, wow.
but as reported by as far as I could recall, Sir Jing, yung year-end report ng Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas was just around a 0.6% drop. 0.6, not even
Wow.
1%. Miraculous, although not so miraculous, because in times past, pagka may crisis like the 2008 global financial crisis and the Asian financial crisis of the 90s, steady po ang remittances. Doon nga sa 2008 po, nag-increase pa eh. So, it seems like the trend for our OFWs and overseas Filipinos, in fairness, the remittance count includes overseas Filipinos, non-OFWs like permanent residents of Filipinos who are permanent residents abroad. They step up. They step up their remittances. They're aware of the situation here in our country, and they even send more funding remittances home. And I think that's one reason, no? Because in 2020, we saw around a 60% drop in deployment from the POEA data. So drastically, deployments have dropped. In fact, there were even 2 months in March, April, I understand, in 2020, where the deployment was near zero. So we saw the drop, but still the remittances held. So we are thankful for this, and obviously in 2021 with the vaccines and the opening up of labor markets abroad, Saudi is normalizing, and of course the U.S. we see this for ourselves is also on the path towards the new normal, the real new normal. So we see that the outlook for remittances and overseas employment will be better and stronger for 2021, at least the second
That's
half.
that's real nice to see the resiliency of our OFW program, and
I think
considering
really
that
it's
yes, please.
Mm-mm. I was
Yeah, go
going to
ahead.
say that it really says a lot about the bayanihan of the Filipino people, whether they are in the Philippines or abroad. They still want to contribute to the improvement of our economy, and of course, helping other Filipinos through these remittances.
Yes,
Uh,
exactly. That's the word,
yes,
bayani.
tama po. In fact, all our bills and past laws are called bayanihan, one act. So we're now coming up with a bayanihan 3. We have already bayanihan 1, bayanihan 2, and bayanihan 3, which provide support. And I think one of the important financial support there would be to subsidize. Kasi, which brings me to this question po, Admin Hans, hindi pa ba apektado yung ano natin with regards to our collection? Because we have this OWA fund, and this fund is coming from the collections of our members. No? How is our collection po? And how is the fund being managed now, considering that napakarami pong sinasagot ninyong gastusin?
Yes, we did see a drop of around 50 to 60% as well in our collections for 2020. Collections are around 70% of our income, around 2 to 2.2 billion every year. But we saw a drastic drop, around a billion or so in 2020, but slowly picking up for 2021. We're seeing around 5 to 10% growth as compared to last year. Hopefully, we can rebound to 2019 levels. The OWA fund suffered in 2020. We took a drop, we took a hit. We lost 1.5 billion last year, Sir Jing. But for me, that's for good reason. The OWA fund increases over the years. Last decade, ang trend po talaga is paakyat. So
Okay.
feeling po rin po namin, the increases really were done over the years for precisely a situation like what happened last year.
Yun.
So last year was a time to really spend for our OFWs. We could not, in a sense, we could not hold on to the money while we saw OFWs suffer last year. So with the repatriation and financial assistance, food assistance, and hygiene assistance all over the world, ginawa po natin yan. So we lost 1.5, but we've been steady. The good news is we've been steady for the first 6 months of the year. We're in a holding pattern. Mahalaga po yun. We don't lose money because of the national government funding. We have
Of course.
received so far almost 17 billion already of funds from the national government. So na-spare po ang OWA Trust Fund. Na-spare. So the losses were controlled efficiently due to the national government contribution.
That's a pretty good handling po of our resources, no? And of course, the president has always been mindful of the welfare of the OFWs. That's why there is always financial support from the DBM, no, to subsidize, considering that the drop, but there's no lose compared to the amount not collected, but it is still subsidized. So balance lang po ang nangyayari, no? So in that sense, we were still able to address the concerns of the OFWs. Now, going to that direction, admin, how is it? How's the handling when our OFWs repatriated? They come in, and with the IATF rules and guidelines for quarantine, are we coping with it in terms of accommodations, in terms of the PCR testing, and their eventual delivery to their own provinces? How is it? Can you give us highlight on this po? Kung hindi pa tayo po nahirapan, okay lang lahat, wala pong nagiging problema sa ating mga OFW para makauwi po sa kanilang probinsya.
Okay. First, let me briefly describe the quarantine protocol. No, so as soon as the OFWs arrive in our international airports, they are fed at the airport. They are hungry from the flight, so they are taken after being fed at the airport. They will be taken to their hotel quarantine facility, and they will stay there. Well, on the 7th day of quarantine, they will be swab tested by the Coast Guard, and the results of that test will be taken to the around 15 or so government laboratories for processing. And if the results are negative, they will be released on the 10th day of quarantine. Now, that's today. At the beginning of this year, the process was swab testing at the airport. Once negative, out in 1 to 3 days. So from 1 to 3 days to 10 days, nag-multiply 3, 4, 5-fold po ang hotel duration, hotel quarantine stay. So, ang nangyari, if you look at the graph, ang nangyari, umakyat po yung bilang ng OFWs who are staying in our hotel quarantine facilities. It used to be on the level of 2 to 3,000 at the beginning of the year. Now we have around 9,600 in around 185 hotels. That's just Metro Manila. We add about additional about roughly 1,500 more from in Cebu and in Clark. So that's roughly around 12,000 in all nationwide, no? Kasi yung dalawang international ports of entry natin, Cebu and Clark also. So manageable naman po so far, Sir Jing. Every day, our OFW, our OWA teams literally handle 10 to 12,000 OFWs. Yung mga dumadating, yung mga nasa hotels, at yung mga papunta sa home regions. Meron tayong mga nurses and midwives who do the rounds, check on their condition. Meron tayong house parents in every OWA hotel. Doon po nagbabantay yung house parents monitoring. They have their tablets. Our nurses and house parents have their tablets, so they enter everything that goes on. I check them here in my computer screen, TV screen every day. So monitor naman po lahat, surging ang nangyayari sa kanila while on quarantine.
That's very good. Zay, you have something to add?
Actually, yes. Yusek, there are so many Filipinos that are really excited to go abroad again because they see that things are slowly getting back to normal and they are eager to really help their families. And there's, as we all know, there's a lack of local employment right now. And I've been able to talk to some of the OFWs through a different event for specifically for them, like a town hall, and some of their concerns were the scheduling of the OWA. Sometimes it takes so long, and the issuance of OWA certificates is like 3 to 4 days. So the question would be, how can OWA help in expediting accelerated deployment for OFWs, considering the lack of opportunities in our country due to the pandemic?
Yeah, I think what this essentially means is that there are two things that we conduct seminars. One is the general pre-departure orientation seminar,
Those.
the PIDOS, and the other one for domestic workers, especially for Saudi, is the cultural and language seminar. Special culture and language and culture training for domestic workers. Yung sa PIDOS, for the skilled sets, this is pretty much delegated especially to the recruitment agencies. So no problem there. Really, the so-called delay happens with respect to the number of domestic worker seminars that we conduct. Yesterday, we had a dialogue with the domestic worker recruitment agency. So we ironed out some concerns. We have a month's backlog because the deployments are picking up. Incidentally, all of these seminars are now online. We've adjusted in terms of the pandemic protocols, social distancing, etc. So all of them are online. So we are trying to catch up. It's a 1 month backlog basically, so it's not that long a delay. And as we emphasized yesterday in the dialogue with the domestic worker recruiters, is we should also be mindful not to sacrifice the efficiency of the delivery. The development of our deployed, especially domestic workers, is communicated. So for me, okay, yes, we have to meet halfway and schedule those who really need to be to go through a seminar, not need to go through a seminar. However, we shouldn't do it so quickly also. So let's just balance the situation and make sure we don't go overboard in the sense that we just become a sort of a certificate mill for these seminars. So we at the same time we have to make sure that the message is communicated. We can't rush, and we need to deliver the message slowly but surely in these seminars.
That's true, Yusek. And I just wanted to also ask regarding this because understandably, all of the agencies, government agencies, have had backlogs because of the pandemic. So it's a domino effect. DFA also has a hard time right now
Yeah. Issuing
issuing
passport.
out passports. Yes, and then also Tesla. There was also an issue with the Tesla where they also had to stop training for a while, even if deployments were okay because we have to wait for CHED to give us the go ahead as well that it's allowed during for educational purposes. So the question is here, when it comes to the local recruitment agencies, since they are local and most of them are Filipino, I'm sure that they have also been experiencing the huge losses and it's affecting their businesses. So there are also penalties that are being issued not by the government agencies of the Filipinos, but by, let's say, in Saudi Arabia, they have the Mossad system. So is there anything that the government is doing, especially Dole, that would allow the Mossad system or Saudi Arabia to maybe loosen up their penalties because everybody is having this domino effect for the pandemic, that they should also be more flexible in their deadlines for the visas for the domestic workers in particular?
Well, of course, we can reach out to the Saudi side. The Musaned is the electronic recruitment portal or facility on the Saudi side, no, for the deployment of especially domestic workers from the Philippines. We can dialogue with them along these lines. But again, I always have to emphasize, and during the times of international global crises such as this, we must not let the system slip through our fingers in a sense that we forget about conveying the proper message, making sure that the domestic workers go through the right process. So it's a balance of both concerns. And the short answer is yes, we can easily reach out to the Saudi side about
Yang
the
ginaganon.
matters on penalties, bearing in mind that at the end, it's the Saudi side that has sovereignty over these concerns, over the penalties and regulations that they may have out there.
Thank you so
By the
much.
way, going back to the issue of repatriation, a lot of questions were also posed to us, admin Hans, regarding the cancellation of flights. Considering that there was a sudden spikes of variants, no, and the IATF, I think, issued some new guidelines in curtailing flights coming in, especially from India or from the Middle East, who may be infected by the Indian variant or the England variant, the British variant, or so. Has this problem been solved already, po? Uh, as the flights resume, because the president issued an instruction recently that the repatriation should not be sacrificed, and uh, people should not be stranded. The distressed Filipinos should not be stranded in all these countries. So has OWA been able to make representation with the IATF that siguro make some exceptions to OFWs, na tuloy-tuloy po yung incoming flights that brings in or that bring in these repatriated OFWs.
Yes, Sir Jing, the UAE and Oman travel ban were brought on because there were two cases of OFWs who came from those countries with the India or Delta variant, as it is called. And of course, we're seeing the effects of the Delta variant in UK right now and even in neighboring Indonesia. So, nag-iingat po tayo, making sure that the UAE, because there are free flows of flights from in between India and UAE and Oman. So we're just making sure that the India variant does not come over here and we lose control of the situation and the transmission rates go up. Okay. Having said that, first week of June, the IATF had already issued some exemptions to the travel ban, especially for UAE and Oman. So in essence, uh, one may either go through the mass repatriation flights organized by the embassy and the Polo OA in UAE and Oman, and in that situation, one can come home notwithstanding the ban. Number two, even without being part of a mass repatriation flight organized by the embassy in Polo, one could apply by first getting oneself PCR tested, and then second, seeking uh, approval of the Department of Health and the Bureau of Quarantine prior to return. So the door is open in terms of exceptions. There are documentary requirements that just need to be hurdled. That's IATF Resolution 119, June 3rd of this year issue.
That's very good po. At least that concern has been addressed kasi marami pong mga kamag-anak tumatawag sa programa namin na, uy, na-stranded po yung anak ko dapat nakauwi na pero na-cancel suddenly yung flights. Something that like that. But I hope this thing are not so hard na hindi po ma-address ng ating pamahalaan, ating IATF. And I'm glad you are in the middle of all this, and I'm sure you can make representation for all of these OFWs po. Uh, Admin Hans.
Yes, salamat, Sir Jing. Of course, these efforts are, as I mentioned, are an interagency effort. We are under the IATF National Task Force umbrella, and patuloy naman po ang pag-organize ng mass repatriation flights for the OFWs who wish to come home. We understand their plight. The other factor here, Sir Jing, is the matter on fully vaccinated OFWs abroad. We are now within the IATF pushing very hard, joining SecBello in terms of pushing very hard to allow fully vaccinated OFWs to already be exempted or
Deployed.
be partially exempted from the quarantine protocol. Yung mga pauwi po, sir.
Mm-mm.
Kasi if that happens,
Oo.
that will open the door to more flights
Tama po.
and more quarantine space here. Because if they have a shorter quarantine period, most of OFWs in the UAE have been vaccinated, for instance, if fully vaccinated. And if they are allowed to have shorter quarantine periods, that opens the door for more flights from the
Tama po
UAE.
yun. After all, ang Pilipinas naman, unlike other countries, wala tayong pinipili na vaccine na in-apply eh. So
Yes,
that opens the door, no? Kasi unlike in fact, I may ask you, there was a news report that yung mga seamen natin who are bound to countries that select vaccines that are only allowed, bibigyan natin ng Pfizer at Moderna. Paano pong nangyari na dito po? Is this already an ongoing program now? I heard SecBello saying na saksakan natin ng Pfizer at Moderna yung mga OFWs natin who are bound for those countries. And that's a very good idea, but is it now in the offing po, admin?
Okay, two things po yan, Sir Jing. Last Thursday, na-launch na yung first batch of seafarers, around 1,000 of them, inoculated. Nandun sina Sec Vince, Sec Bello, Yorme Isko were there now to launch the vaccination of deploying OFW, especially seafarers. It's a 4-month window given by the IATF. They are in the A1 category, OFWs to be deployed within this 4-month window starting yesterday. So, meron pong, yes, there were vaccines, there were Pfizer vaccines last Thursday, but having said that, two things. We will also communicate to host governments. By the way, these vaccine preferences are host government impositions, not foreign employer impositions, or in the case of seafarers, flag state impositions. Okay, so we will have to coordinate and reach out to these host governments or flag states as to the situation here in the Philippines. That many have been, for instance, vaccinated by a non-preferred,
Sinovac.
such as Sinovac. Okay,
Oo.
that's one. But having said that, the supplies the COVAX supplies, for instance, the COVAX facility supplies of Pfizer, etc., have come in, and these are the preferred vaccines. So, as much as it can be accommodated, these vaccines will also be used for seafarers or OFWs whose governments or flag states have a vaccine preference. I should say it's a balance of both concerns, Sir Jing.
Tama po.
Kakausapin din po yung host governments, but at the same time, since the supplies will be adequate through October, as we understand it, Pfizer, etc., then we could go ahead actually and vaccinate those whose ship owners, employers have vaccine preferences.
At saka po siguro, another representation that we should make in tangent with this statement that you made is to make sure that these countries will loosen up their rules also. After all, the World Health Organization has recognized Sinovac. I think 50% of our vaccines comes from Sinovac. So, if we deploy, tapos hindi naman accepted yung Sinovac, baka pwede pong we make representation. After all, World Health has already certified Sinovac
Yeah, yeah.
as a potent vaccine for the purpose, no?
One compromise that I see, Sir Jing, is kasi marami na nabakunahan eh. So
Mm.
at the very least, yung mga nabakunahan na pagbigyan because obviously hindi na ho mababakunahan yung nabakunahan na.
Oo,
It would have to be a booster shot 6 months to 1 year down the
I
line.
see.
So yun po sa tingin ko negotiable yon yung aspeto ng nabakunahan na. So I think we can do this. There's some elbow room there in which we can talk to the host governments and the flag states about this. Kasi sayang naman yung mga nabakunahan for the booster shot, yes, pwedeng ma-accommodate ang vaccine preference because again, 6 months to 1 year
And they
down the
can
line.
have the booster shot in that country already, the host country,
Right.
no?
The
Oo,
employer or whoever can already administer the booster shot. Yes, that's
tama
right.
po. Tama po. Z, you have an additional statement or query?
Probably right now, since moving forward, there are a lot of people who are in need of a financial assistance coming from OWA. For example, the Dole ACAP provides 10,000 pesos of financial assistance to displaced land or sea-based Filipino workers affected by COVID-19. But what if there are, of course, we don't encourage undocumented OFWs, but what if there are undocumented OFWs who also need assistance? Can they avail of this financial assistance?
Yes, of course. In two ways. One is the cash out financial assistance, what's called the Dole APA program administered by Secbelio. Yes, there is a 10,000 peso assistance, whether one is documented or undocumented. Now it comes with another program which is called Tabang OFW. Tabang, as Surging knows in Bisaya, means to help, to assist. Tabang is a scholarship program administered by Dole and CHED to the office of Senator Bongo also. So this program is for collegiate level dependents of OFWs displaced by COVID. It's a 30,000 peso cash out grant to the collegiate level dependent. And if one is an active OWA member, if the OFW father or mother is an active OWA member, OWA adds 10,000 pesos per year per college year. It's around 40,000 for 4 years of college. So these are the two major programs. Of course, there is a livelihood program. Most for documented and undocumented workers, there are also livelihood programs for micro level startup programs for them.
It's really good to hear, especially since some of them need to adjust before going abroad again, or even if they don't want to leave, they need to have their own entrepreneurial endeavors in the Philippines.
That brings us now to the issue, of the proposed priority bill of the president. This is the creation of the Department of Overseas Filipino Workers. No, now maybe we can ask Admin Hans kung ano po ang particular treatment ng both houses of Congress or recently the Senate in terms of the status of OWA? Is it gonna be absorbed, or is it gonna be remain? It's gonna remain as an attached agency of the newly the proposed newly created department. Ano pong nangyayari po doon sa huli pong ng Senado po?
Yes, of course, under the House version, OWA is an attached agency of the so-called Department of
Yes.
Filipino Studies or DOPHIL. The Senate department, out of the committee report, the department will have the OWA also as an attached agency. Kaya lang, Sir Jing, may comment kami sa committee report which says the OWA will be converted into a provident fund. And to be used,
The OWA fund will be converted into the Provident Fund.
to be used exclusively, that's the exact word, exclusively for retirement, death, and disability purposes only. Okay.
Wow.
Medyo may problema kami doon ho kasi one sentence lang yon. It's stated in the present tense. It's not even aspirational. So, ang problema namin doon, number one, mahihinto yung other programs, livelihood, scholarship, those that I just mentioned. Meron pa nga calamity assistance. And then number two, we feel that the conversion of the OWA from welfare to provident fund cannot just be done in one sentence in the DOPHIL law. There is another law, the SSS law, as you know, Sir Jing.
Yes po.
The SSS law was amended to make it mandatory for OFWs to be members of the SSS. And marami na rin ho nag-contribute doon. So sa tingin ho namin, una, kailangan pag-aralan yun hand in hand with converting the OWA into a provident or retirement fund. Kasi marami na nag-contribute doon sa SSS fund at baka madoble ang magiging contribution ng OFW kung pati OWA ay retirement fund na rin. May hulog sa SSS. May hulog sa
po, this is covered by a specific law eh. So, hindi lang amendment by implication, no? It must be a specific amendment of the existing law of OWA kasi the trust fund is really created by a certain provision of law eh.
Exactly.
Sabi mo nga, ha?
Exactly, Sir Jing. In fact, in our letter to Senate Chair, Committee Chair of Labor,
Joel Villanueva,
even said that this should be the subject of another law, and not one sentence in the DOPHIL law.
Kailangan po siguro maagapan yan admin kasi nasa floor na ito. There's a floor debate for debate na. And I think I suggest you come up with a very strong position paper on this and make representation. I mean, there's an office in the government, the Presidential Legislative Liaison Office, which can make representation and strongly suggest. And there's still the BICAM, you can still make habol doon sa BICAM if this will really be a highly questionable thing, and it will, instead of creating a very potent force to help our OFW, magiging problema patuloy ito dahil mawawalan yung mga contributors. Kung parang this is a breach of contract in a way, di ba? Kasi
parang doble-doble kasi
Oh.
they will be so confused, and that's one of the purposes of the DOPHIL, which is to avoid confusion on where OFWs can go, di ba?
And dun sa purpose, Sir Jing, for the last 40 years, the OWA has been known as a welfare fund. So
Yes.
when OFW puts in the $25, yun nga, parang contract eh. That OFW has in mind that I am putting my $25 in a welfare fund.
yeah. At
Now
saka
suddenly,
you actually will be depriving the contributor of what he was contributing in the first place. Kasi if you transfer it, yung future niya might be assured because it's a provident fund, but the future is still the future. Yung present, yung kailangan niyang matulungan eh. Kasi he is still working abroad eh. And the OWA fund is for that purpose. Di ba?
Yes. Yung exclusivity clause na yon, just for kung sabihin na ang OWA ay pang retirement, death, and disability lang, will affect around 150,000 OWA members, yung nabibigyan ng livelihood, scholarship,
Yes, yes.
medical, etc. That's around 150,000 na biglang
So,
may
well, that's a serious admin, ah. Serious 'yan. That OWA should really be strongly making a representation and a set value also siguro kasi being the chairman of OWA, that will also affect OWA's future in the sense.
Sir Jing, may nakaligtaan pa akong point. Unfunded din yung magiging mandate kasi wala hong seed money na inilaan doon sa bill.
So magiging subsidized yan every year.
Yes,
That will be a problem na naman sa General Appropriations Act na pupunduhan nila yan, di ba?
kailangan ho na actuarial study, Sir Jing, kasi
Yeah.
hindi ko kaya 18.3
Insurance, magiging insurance yan converted into
Oo, yeah.
insurance.
So, hindi kaya ng current 18.3 billion. Siguro ubos yan in 1 year kung ibabayad
Yes.
sa pensions. So kailangan pag-aralan at kailangan may seed fund. Kasi 'di ba lahat naman ho ng laws, Sir Jing, na nagtatalaga ng insurance or provident fund ay merong seed fund from the national government.
Tama po. In fact,
yes.
that is the big problem. Mayroong isang batas ngayon yung sa mga retirement ng armed forces and police personnel. Kasi there's a school of thought na yung new entrance lang. Mayroon namang na i-cover lahat, pero where will you get the funding? Ito po yung magiging problema no? So, it's similar to this. Saan kukunin yung pondo niyan?
Yes.
Tapos mapipiss off po yung mga contributor na members pinapakontribute mo kami pero yung purpose na kino-contribute namin hindi na yun yung naiisip namin kung hindi mapupunta yung pera doon sa hindi naman namin iniisip. Di ba po? Yun ang magiging So, mangyari niyan, it might discourage the members to put their $25 a year na contribution. Di po ba, admin?
Yes. So yun doon sa position paper na pinadala namin kay Senator Joel last first week of June, may proposal kami doon na gawing aspirational na lang po kung pag-uusapan man yan. So within 3 years from effectivity of the act, the department will submit a recommendation of the conversion of OWA from welfare to provident. Ganun po, aspirational na lang, Sir Jing, hindi instant conversion kasi marami pong maapektuhan kung instant conversion in more ways than one. Yung beneficiaries ng current programs, yung trust fund mismo, maapektuhan din po.
Before we close, Admin Hans, thank you so much for a very, very informative discussion we have. May mga phone-in questions po kasi. Mayroong tanong po dito, if I may. Ano po dapat maitulong nyo sa isang kaibigan ko na nasa Dubai na nawalan ng trabaho? Teacher siya at nagsara na ang school nila sa Dubai. Stranded siya at doon yung 3 bata na American citizen na student niya. Baka pwedeng matulungan nyo ang teacher na kababata ko at Pilipino po sila from Zamboanga. I hope matulungan po ninyo Sir Hans Kakdak. I can give her whereabouts po. Emily Aquilizan from Parañaque. Ano po daw maitulong? And maybe siguro we can provide her the OWA number para they can directly Opo.
Kukunin ko po pangalan at number niya, Sir Jing. Pwede namin siya ma-shelter, pwede namin siya matulungan.
Sige po, ibigay namin Miss Emily Aquilizan, if you are listening, padala mo po sa amin yung number mo, and Admin Hans Kakdak, a very, very diligent guy in the government, will surely call you. As soon as this program is finished, you give us your number. We will provide Admin Hans your number.
Yes po. We will await the number and I will communicate with the teacher myself.
Sige po. Oo. And lastly po siguro, Zay, do you have any pahabol na tanong kay admin?
Actually, I think we covered everything. Maybe before we let Yusek go, maybe he can probably give us a short briefing of the new guidelines for this pandemic, so that everybody who is watching right now, especially those who are interested to becoming OFWs, what are the steps for them to be
Yeah.
deployed right now, and for arriving OFWs, and for arriving foreign partners of OFWs, if ever.
Okay, first for the deployment side, we just forgot to mention that we've been working with the recruitment agencies and the POEA and the DFA on this and the IATF. Just to say that we are working on, because there was a mass vaccination launch for seafarers last Thursday. So we're working on a mass vaccination launch for land-based workers. So we're ironing out the guidelines. And within the month of June, we will also roll out the mass vaccination of A1 category land-based workers to be deployed abroad. Okay. So this is in store for them. And for those who are arriving, of course, the protocol that we had discussed is already in place. Free everything, free swab test, free food, free transport, free hotel ako, quarantine accommodation for returning OFWs. Huwag po kayo mag-alala, alagaan po namin kayo. There's a portal that you can access before you enter. There's the Balik Pinas portal. Paki-search na lang po sa App Store, Google Play, or sa Google, yung Balik Pinas portal where one could register even prior to coming home. Of course, there is the Dole Oasis portal, oasis.owa.gov.ph, where one could register. 1348 po ang aming hotline. So just feel free to get in touch with us and we will help you po, whether OFWs abroad, OFWs here, or OFW families here as well in our country.
Well, everything that ends well ends with a smile. So thank you so much, admin, and more power to you. And we always admire your diligence and your perseverance. This is really a very noble work to be able to solve all kinds of problems, distressed OFWs, and so on and so forth. So we look forward to your continuing with your job. This may be the last almost 2 years of the president, and we hope to see your face pa rin in the next administration. You have been doing a lot of work really for our people. So marami pong salamat at maraming salamat again na pinaunlakan mo ang aming programa.
Salamat
Thank you so
po.
much, Yusek.
Salamat, Ms. Zia. Ako po magpapasalamat sa pagkakataong magpaliwanag. Salamat po sa tulong at suporta ninyo. Of course, yung ating interagency effort naman ay nandito parati para tumulong sa ating mga mahal na OFWs, ang ating mahal na departamento sa DOLE, Sir Jing, ang ating
Yes.
nalihim si Sec Bello. So, patuloy lang po tayo magsisilbi sa ngalan ng ating boss na talagang nagsabi sa atin, nagutos sa atin na gawin ang lahat para sa kapakanan ng ating mahal na OFW. So maraming salamat po. Pagdasal po natin na isa't isa.
Mabuhay po kayo at thank you, Z,
Thank you so
for our
much.
program today. Okay?
Ms.
Good
Z,
luck.
Maraming salamat. Thank you to everybody who has also been watching since earlier this morning, 10 a.m. We do have this every Saturday, so if you are excited to see what's coming up, just make sure to tune in. And of course, we have a long list of guests, and our next will surely have you all glued to our channel, Sovereign PHTV 911 or 911. And announcements will be posted on our social media platforms below. Until next week, this is Z Saldua.
And this is Jing Paras. Both your hosts are very happy to be with you today. Thank you so much and good morning.